Have you ever stopped to really listen to what you say to yourself when you open your eyes each morning? Are they words of encouragement and possibility, or perhaps a torrent of worries and self-criticism? That internal dialogue, that first thought of the day, is not coincidental. According to Carl Jung, one of the most brilliant psychologists of all time, those first words you pronounce in your mind upon waking have the power to define not just your day, but your entire destiny. Imagine for a moment that every morning when you open your eyes, the first thing you hear is an inner voice saying, "Another day, another opportunity to fail." How do you think that message will affect the decisions you make throughout the day? Now imagine waking up and hearing, "Today is a new beginning. I'm ready to create my path." The difference is enormous, isn't it? Jung discovered something fascinating. The morning internal dialogue is a direct window to our unconscious. That moment between sleep and wakefulness is when the barriers between the conscious and unconscious are thinnest, and what emerges at that instant reveals much about the forces that are really guiding our lives. They aren't simple random thoughts. They are messengers from our deepest self. The problem is that many of us don't pay attention to this dialogue. We get up, grab our phones, check notifications, and drown out that inner voice with the noise of the world. However, in that brief moment of transition into consciousness, your mind is speaking to you from the depths of your being, and what it says matters more than you can imagine. Jung dedicated much of his life to studying the unconscious and discovered that there is a bridge between our conscious thoughts and the powerful unconscious forces that really direct our lives. That bridge manifests itself especially in those threshold moments like waking up. It's there where we can capture crucial messages about our true desires, fears, and potential. Think about it. What were your first internal words this morning? Did you speak to yourself with kindness or harshness? Did you focus on possibilities or limitations? This morning, internal conversation is not just a passive reflection of your mental state. It is an active force that is literally programming the course of your day, and over time, the complete course of your life. When Jung talks about choosing yourself, he's not referring to a selfish or narcissistic act. He's referring to honoring that authentic voice that emerges in moments like waking up, listening to it carefully, and allowing it to guide you. Because that voice, when you listen to it sincerely, always leads you toward your true self, toward your most genuine purpose. The modern world has created a perfect system to disconnect us from this internal dialogue. Notifications, news, work, and family demands. Everything is designed for you to pay attention to the external and ignore the internal. But here's the truth that Jung discovered. Every time you ignore that morning internal dialogue, every time you silence that voice that emerges upon waking, you're ceding control of your destiny to external forces. Have you ever wondered why sometimes you feel that your life doesn't belong to you? Why, despite doing everything right according to social standards, something inside you still feels unsatisfied? Jung had a clear answer. You've been ignoring that morning conversation with yourself, that sacred moment when your most authentic self tries to communicate with you. The dialogue upon waking acts as an internal compass. If you wake up and the first thing you think about is all your obligations and how you don't have enough time, you're programming a day of stress and a sense of scarcity. If you wake up and the first thing you do is criticize yourself for not having achieved something yesterday, you're sowing seeds of dissatisfaction that will germinate throughout the day. Jung taught us that this internal dialogue is not immutable. We can consciously transform it. And when we do, when we deliberately choose the words with which we speak to ourselves upon waking, we are exercising one of the most significant powers we have, the power to define our own reality. Imagine that starting tomorrow, you decide to change that morning dialogue. Imagine that before sleeping, you set the intention that your first internal words upon waking will be, "I am grateful for this new day, for the infinite possibilities that open before me." And then, when you open your eyes, you consciously reinforce that message. At first, it may seem artificial, even forced. Our thought patterns are deeply rooted, especially those we've repeated for years every morning. But Jung discovered that the unconscious responds to repetition, to sustained intention. With consistent practice, that new morning dialogue begins to feel natural, and something surprising happens. Your external reality begins to align with that new internal programming. This isn't magical thinking or simply thinking positive. It's much deeper than that. Jung understood that there was a direct connection between our thought patterns and the circumstances we attract into our lives. It's not that thoughts alone create reality, but that our constant thoughts shape our perceptions, decisions, and actions, and these, in turn, configure our external reality. The morning dialogue is particularly powerful because it occurs in a state of greater receptivity. Your mind, freshly emerged from sleep, is like fertile ground, ready to receive the seeds you'll plant for that day. If you plant doubts, insecurities, and limitations, that's what will grow. If you plant possibilities, gratitude, and confidence, your day will flourish in ways you might not even be able to imagine right now. Jung talked about the process of individuation, that path that leads us to fully becoming who we are. And that process begins with small daily decisions, like the way we choose to speak to ourselves upon waking. Each morning is a new opportunity to reaffirm your commitment to your true self, to choose yourself once more. But transforming this dialogue isn't always easy. Often, the first words we say to ourselves upon waking reflect our shadows, those parts of ourselves that we've repressed or ignored. Jung believed that integrating our shadows was essential for personal growth, and that begins by recognizing those dark morning thoughts without judging them. If, when you wake up, you find yourself thinking, "I can't handle all this," instead of repressing that thought or judging yourself for having it, observe it with curiosity. Ask yourself, where does this feeling come from? What is my unconscious trying to tell me? Sometimes, those seemingly negative thoughts are important signals that something in your life needs to change. Jung discovered that our unconscious is always trying to guide us toward wholeness, toward a fuller and more authentic life. Even thoughts that seem limiting or negative contain valuable information if we learn to listen to them correctly. The key is not to identify completely with them, but to observe them as messengers. A practice that Jung recommended was keeping a journal of dreams and first thoughts. Keep a notebook next to your bed and, as soon as you wake up, write down the first words that appear in your mind. Over time, you'll begin to detect revealing patterns. Perhaps you'll notice that on Mondays you wake up with thoughts of resistance, or that after talking with certain people, your morning thoughts become more critical. This type of self-observation is fundamental in Jungian work. It's not just about changing your thoughts from negative to positive. It's about deeply understanding the messages that your inner self is trying to communicate to you. Because sometimes, a seemingly negative thought can be exactly the wake-up call you need to make a crucial change in your life. Jung also spoke about the importance of what he called symbolic amplification. If upon waking you find yourself thinking about a particular symbol, an image, or even a word that seems to arise from nowhere, pay special attention. These symbols often contain powerful messages from the unconscious that can guide you in moments of decision or transition. For example, if you wake up with the image of a bridge, instead of dismissing it as something random, ask yourself, what might this bridge symbolize in my life right now? What transition am I facing? What connections do I need to establish? Jung discovered that these morning symbols can be extraordinarily revealing and guiding. The internal dialogue upon waking not only affects your mental state, it literally reconfigures your biochemistry. When you wake up with thoughts of stress and worry, your body immediately begins to produce cortisol and other stress hormones. These hormones affect everything, from your immune system to your ability to make clear decisions. Conversely, when you wake up with thoughts of gratitude and possibility, your body produces endorphins and other neurotransmitters that foster health and mental clarity. Jung, although he didn't know all the neurobiological details we know today, intuitively understood this connection between mind and body. He knew that our thoughts aren't abstract entities floating in a vacuum. They are real forces that shape our physical and energetic reality. There's a simple but powerful exercise you can start tomorrow. Before sleeping, write on a piece of paper the first sentence you want to be your internal dialogue upon waking. Place that paper where you can see it immediately when you open your eyes. It can be something like, "I am capable of creating the life I desire. Today I choose peace and clarity." Or simply, "I am grateful for this new beginning." The important thing is that it resonates with you, that it feels authentic and not just an empty affirmation. When you wake up, read that sentence aloud or mentally before doing anything else. Before looking at your phone, before worrying about the day's tasks, let those words be the first thing to plant seeds in your mind. Over time, you'll notice that even without the paper, your morning dialogue begins to transform. It's as if you had reprogrammed your internal operating system. Jung believed that each of us has a unique purpose, a singular calling that only we can fulfill. And that purpose begins to reveal itself when we pay attention to our internal dialogue, especially in moments like waking up. Your morning dialogue contains clues about your true purpose, about what really makes you feel alive and fulfilled. Think about people who have achieved extraordinary things, who have left a positive impact on the world. People like Gandhi, Marie Curie, Martin Luther King Jr. Do you think they woke up every morning telling themselves, "I can't do this," or "Who am I to try to change things?" No. They woke up with an internal dialogue of possibility, purpose, and determination. And you can do the same. But this work isn't just for you. Jung spoke of the collective unconscious, that shared network of symbols, archetypes, and energy that connects all of humanity. When you transform your morning dialogue, you're not just changing your own life, you're contributing to a broader evolution of human consciousness. Each person who wakes up more conscious, more present, more connected with their purpose, elevates the vibration of the collective field. Imagine a world where more people pay attention to this internal morning dialogue. A world where, instead of waking up with fear, worry, and scarcity, most people wake up with gratitude, purpose, and abundance. How would that change our interactions, our communities, our social systems? Jung believed that true social change begins with individual change. We cannot create a more conscious and compassionate society if we ourselves do not cultivate that consciousness and compassion, beginning with the way we speak to ourselves upon waking each day. There are people who have completely transformed their lives simply by changing this morning dialogue. I know someone who went from a deep depression to a life of purpose and joy, and it all began when they consciously decided to change the first words they said to themselves each morning. Instead of, "I can't go on like this," they began to say, "Today I choose a step toward the light." A change so simple and yet so deeply transformative. The beauty of this approach is that it doesn't require external resources, academic degrees, or special circumstances. It's available to everyone, regardless of their situation. Whether you're a student, a parent, a CEO, or someone who is struggling to find their way, you have the power to transform your morning dialogue and, by extension, your entire destiny. Jung reminded us that, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Your morning dialogue is precisely that, an opportunity to make the unconscious conscious, to take the reins of your internal programming instead of allowing old automatic patterns to direct your life. It's important to remember that it's not about denying real difficulties or pretending that everything is perfect when it isn't. Jung was emphatic that true transformation requires honesty and authenticity. It's about choosing an internal dialogue that empowers you to face real challenges, not one that simply denies them. For example, if you're going through a difficult time, your morning dialogue might be, "Although I face challenges, I have the inner strength to overcome them." This type of dialogue acknowledges reality, but also affirms your response capacity, your inherent resilience. Jung also spoke of synchronicity, those seemingly coincidental but meaningful events that occur when we are aligned with our deepest purpose. Many people report that when they begin to transform their morning dialogue, they start to experience more synchronicities in their lives. The right opportunities appear at the right time, The right people enter their lives, and solutions to problems that seemed unsolvable reveal themselves in unexpected ways. This isn't magic or coincidence. It's the natural result of aligning your conscious mind with the deeper forces of your being. When your morning dialogue is in harmony with your true self, with your deepest values and authentic desires, the universe seems to conspire in your favor. Not because there's an external force organizing everything for you, but because you yourself are more receptive, more alert to the opportunities that have always been there, but that you perhaps couldn't see before. Jung firmly believed that there is an innate wisdom in each of us, an internal compass that always guides us toward our greatest good and growth. The problem is that the noise of the outside world and our own limiting mental patterns often interfere with that signal. The moment of waking, when the mind is in that liminal state between sleep and full wakefulness, is when that signal can be clearest. It's a sacred moment of connection with your deepest wisdom. There's a specific practice that Jung recommended and that you can incorporate into your routine. Active contemplation. As soon as you wake up, before getting out of bed, take a few minutes to observe your thoughts without judging them. Simply notice what arises in your mind. Then, consciously, choose a thought that empowers you, that connects you with your purpose, and allow it to expand in your consciousness. Visualize how that positive thought influences your actions during the day, how it helps you respond in ways more aligned with who you really are. This practice of active contemplation upon waking is like planting a seed in the garden of your mind. During the day, you can return to that thought when you feel challenged or disconnected. It becomes an anchor, a reference point that helps you stay centered on what really matters. Jung also spoke about the importance of the integration of opposites. If your morning dialogue tends to be very critical, the goal isn't simply to replace it with an excessively optimistic one. Instead, seek a dialogue that integrates both the recognition of challenges and the affirmation of your capabilities. For example, instead of "everything's going to go wrong today," or its equally unbalanced opposite, "everything will be perfect today," you might choose something like, "Today, I will face both challenges and opportunities, and I have the wisdom to navigate both." This integration of opposites creates a more sustainable and realistic internal dialogue, one that can accompany you even on the most difficult days. It's not about forcing a false positivity, but about finding a balance that honors both the light and shadow aspects of life. One of Jung's most profound observations was that what you resist persists, what you accept transforms. This applies directly to your morning dialogue. If you deny your fears, insecurities, or resistances that appear upon waking, they will continue influencing your day from the shadows. But if you recognize them with compassion, if you accept them as parts of your human experience without allowing them to dictate your actions, you can transform them into sources of strength and understanding. For example, if upon waking you notice thoughts of fear about an important project you must present that day, instead of suppressing them or letting yourself be dragged down by them, you could recognize them. "I feel fear, and that's understandable. This project is important to me," and then consciously choose a more empowered perspective. "And precisely because it matters to me, I'm going to give my best, knowing that my value doesn't depend on the outcome." This type of honest but empowering internal dialogue creates an inner space from which you can face real challenges with greater clarity and strength. You're not denying the difficulty, but you're also not giving it power to define your experience or your destiny. Jung reminded us that your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. The moment of physical awakening can become a deeper spiritual and psychological awakening when you learn to look inward with courage and clarity. The morning dialogue you choose day after day is not just a set of words. It's a declaration of who you decide to be, of how you choose to live, of what reality you decide to create. It is, in the deepest sense, a choice of destiny. Imagine that every morning when you open your eyes, you say to yourself, Today, I choose to be the person I can admire. How would that change your decisions during the day? How would it affect the way you respond to challenges, to opportunities, to relationships? How would it transform, over time, the complete course of your life? Jung showed us that inner work is not a luxury or an indulgence, it's the most important work we can do. Because everything we create in the outer world is a reflection of our inner world. And that inner world takes shape, to a large extent, through the words we say to ourselves day after day, especially in such crucial moments as waking up. Your destiny is not written in the stars, nor is it determined by your circumstances or your past. Your destiny is written each morning, with that first internal dialogue that sets the tone for everything that will follow. It's an immense power that you have in that seemingly simple moment. Are you ready to reclaim that power? Are you willing to pay attention to those first words you say to yourself upon waking and to transform them, if necessary? Are you prepared to choose yourself, to consciously choose the destiny you want to create? Jung believed that each of us has the capacity to be the conscious author of our own life, not simply a character following a script written by others or by old unconscious patterns, but an active creator of meaning and purpose. That process of conscious authorship begins with something as simple and yet as profound as the words you choose when you open your eyes each morning. It's there, in that threshold moment between worlds, where you can begin to rewrite your story, to redefine your destiny. If you've made it this far, something in this message has resonated with you. Perhaps you've recognized patterns in your own morning dialogue that aren't serving you. Perhaps you felt a spark of inspiration at the possibility of transforming that dialogue and, with it, your life experience. Perhaps you've simply remembered something you already knew deep down, that you have the power to choose your thoughts and, through them, to shape your reality. Whatever the case, I invite you to make a simple but powerful experiment for the next 21 days. Each night, before sleeping, write on a piece of paper the first sentence you want to be your internal dialogue upon waking. Place that paper where you can see it immediately when you open your eyes. When you wake up, read that sentence aloud or mentally before doing anything else. Keep a simple record of how you feel during the day, what synchronicities you experience, what decisions you make when you're guided by that new internal dialogue. After 21 days, look back and notice the difference. Don't be surprised if you discover that your life has begun to transform in ways you could barely imagine. This message is not just information, it's an invitation to transformation. An invitation to wake up not just from your physical sleep each morning, but from the deeper sleep of unconsciousness, of autopilot, of the limiting patterns that have been directing your life. As Jung said, he who looks outside dreams, he who looks inside awakes. It's time to wake up, to look inward, to reclaim your power to define your own destiny through the words you choose at the beginning of each day. If this message has touched you, share it with someone who you believe could benefit from hearing it. Sometimes a simple video like this can be the seed that triggers a profound transformation in someone's life. Never underestimate the power of sharing ideas that illuminate and empower. Let me know in the comments what your current morning dialogue is and what new dialogue you're committed to creating. Your experience can inspire others on this same path. And if you haven't done so yet, subscribe to this channel for more deep explorations like this one, for more tools that help you awaken to your true potential, to your authentic self. Remember, the way you speak to yourself when you wake up defines your destiny. It's a power you've always had. Now is the time to use it consciously, to choose yourself each morning, to deliberately create the life you truly want to live. Thank you for being here, for your attention, for your willingness to grow and transform. As a community of seekers, of people committed to their conscious evolution, together we are creating a more awake, more conscious world, more aligned with our highest potentials. See you in the next video. Until then, wake up each day with words that honor who you truly are, that celebrate your infinite potential, that remind you of your power to create the destiny your soul yearns for. Because as Jung said, your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. And it's there, in the depth of your heart, where you'll find the perfect words to greet yourself each morning, the words that will illuminate your path toward the destiny you truly deserve.